Hey, everybody, welcome to our monthly Thriving Lives community call. Tonight, we are talking about realistic goal setting. I'm pumped for this topic. I know Renae is as well. I think, Renae, it was your idea to talk about this, so you
Mhm.
better be ready to bring it. Otherwise, though, we are now into October. It's October 2nd, which is crazy wild. Only got a few more months left of the year. What is that? We're in Q4 now, so we have 3 months to kick ass and build momentum leading into 2025. So I think this is a great timing for this call in particular. But before we dive into, we got a few things, a little housekeeping notes to kind of start off with before we dive into tonight's topic. But before we do that, Renae, how's your last month been?
Pretty good. I feel like not much to report. Life's a little slower now, which is good.
Yeah,
Um,
love that for you.
just more intentional time to kind of relax. Um, Workouts going good. I've ingrained my twice a week 5 a.m. workouts back in, which is lovely. Um,
Do you find that hard to just do that 2 days a week?
so I have to get up at 5 a.m. and leave the house at 6:15 on 2 days on Monday, Wednesday. So I can't make it to the gym and come home and make breakfast before I have to leave for work at 6:15. So I can only do the 2 days a week. But I'm already getting up at 5 a.m.
Mhm.
Monday, Wednesday. So getting up at 4 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday isn't that big of a difference.
Okay, that
Um,
that makes sense.
yeah. So Tuesday, Thursday is my typical now, the 5 a.m. Which has been nice structure. It's like getting it out of the way. Um, I've definitely had less steps the past couple weeks. My dog is in a board and train right now, so I missed my little walks. I don't think I realized how, I mean, I knew how much it was like adding in like extra steps throughout the day, but just those little like 15-minute walks twice a day definitely add in and was way easier to get like 10,000 steps.
Oh yeah.
Um, but one of my past clients, Allison Link, she is a dog trainer with Casey Dogs with a Z on it. And so she's got him for a month and it's sad, but it's okay. Um, it's weird coming home to like nothing and no one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, workout's going well. I think I'm just navigating. I think for a while I was really hung up on the fact that I thought I'd like, well, I did like reverse my cut when I came home from my vacations. But I'm also like learning to give myself grace because I've added in alcohol again and I didn't have alcohol for like basically the entirety of my fitness journey.
Mhm.
So now it's just been an adjustment on navigating food and alcohol
Yeah.
with my
And
goals.
and and when
So
you
I
say
think,
you've added in alcohol, that just means that if the social setting makes sense,
oh,
not
um,
not as much as a nightly nightcap.
yeah, let me rephrase that. Definitely just like once on the weekends, but it was like twice a year.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now to go from twice a year to since July, it's probably honestly been at least once a weekend or once every other weekend, which is a massive increase than
Yeah.
before it was. But I also was in like a cocoon phase for a while with no social life. And so this has been super nice to navigate that. And I know how to reach my goals when I'm on it, but reaching my goals when I have a social life is different. And it's only, I think, made me balance things better and able to approach like my clients better as well, because I feel like you do have to live like as much as great as it was for me to be thinner with less body fat. This is also a cool experience that I'm
Yeah.
living.
Yeah, definitely. I think something I had a couple conversations with. It seems like anytime I have one conversation with like one client, then there's like I have the same conversation with like 10 others the same week.
Mhm.
And one of those was because it's knowing the season of life you're in and knowing what your goals are, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight a little bit. That kind of goes hand in hand with it. But just in terms of like should you always avoid alcohol or always avoid the social settings that are fun and stuff like that? Definitely not. Like that is part of anybody's healthy, balanced lifestyle is that healthy social life. And I would even say a little bit of alcohol here and there is healthy just because you're enjoying that aspect of life. Now it's different when it becomes a very, very consistent part of your life. That's when it has the negative health, effects on it. But point in saying that is, I've got some people that say, do I just need to cut out alcohol completely? And this is when I just say, again, it depends on what your goals are and what the season of life is. If you have, let's say, 40 pounds to lose and your gut's messed up or whatever it is, like insert whatever the issue is. Well, whatever the physical or health issue that we have or body composition issue that we have, alcohol is going to handcuff the shit out of us. It's going to make it, especially if we're doing it on a consistent basis, on a weekly basis, especially multiple drinks, it's going to make it very, very hard to ever hit that goal. So that's when you have to look at the hard, the hard of backing off the alcohol, maybe saying no a few more times and yes less often to those social settings, and pull back on that so we can actually put forth the effort and energy into what our physical goals are. Like, again, if you feel like shit all the time, then yeah, you need to take a few months to invest in pulling back on some of those unhealthier foods or alcohol and stuff like that. And so it's just picking and choosing when it makes sense for it. Um, and know that you don't have to live in that state of life for the rest of your life. But to get a certain result, to get to a healthy maintenance point, you might have to go through those more restricted periods. And that is kind of the nature of this game of health, and especially a body composition, is you have to be restrictive sometimes to some extent to get
Mhm.
to a certain goal, right? Now, if you're happy being, 30 pounds overweight and not feeling good and stuff like that, then yeah, fucking keep in the alcohol and stuff like that. But I don't think you're here for that reason. Jessica, I just saw the little one. Sorry about the cuss, and hopefully he's used to it, Jessica. Anyway, though, so yeah, all right. So my last month, Renae, you didn't ask, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway.
I Okay,
I
in
know,
my
I know,
defense, I didn't have time to because you just
I
cut me
know,
off.
I know.
So let's reel it back.
Did you have anything else to add about your last month?
No,
Okay, cool.
on to you.
Well, well, first off, we welcomed, I think, 14 new TLFers this month. So that's always awesome. Thriving Lives is growing. You guys are all a huge part of that. And, I think a big goal I mean, I know it's always been my goal for the last 8 years of running this and the last year with Renae coming on board as well, is growth for Thriving Lives in terms of new clients is never going to mean a fall off in your one-to-one experience and your service. And if I ever saw that starting to happen, I would create a cap and I would say no more new clients until somebody leaves, then that would open the door. It's I love getting to work with more and more people because that many more lives I get to touch. And same thing with Renae. And I feel like anybody that Renae gets to work one-on-one with, it's an extension of Thriving Lives. It is an extension of my impact on the world as well. And so I'm grateful. We send out thank you cards to every single new person, and we say that we're thankful to be a part of your journey and of your life. So I mean that wholeheartedly. So welcome to our newest people. We got a few of them on the call tonight, so welcome, new Thriving Lives members. Now, as for my last month, first off, the most important thing is Lola just turned 1 on Sunday. We had a little get together. Renae was there on Saturday night for and celebrated, and that was awesome. It's crazy how, I mean, parents always say how fast the time flies with those little ones, and they are definitely not lying. That it flew by so fast this last year. It's felt like she's been here for a few months. It's also felt like she's been here for a few decades. Like I feel like I've known her forever as well. So it's kind of a weird contrast there with that. But I'm sure if you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was
You had
super
a
cool.
birthday as well.
Huh?
You had a birthday as
I had
well.
a birthday as well. Yeah, that's not as big of a deal now that I'm in my 30s. I'm stopping counting. I'll pretty much feel and look 30 the rest of my life, hopefully. But yeah, I had a birthday as well. Had my best round of golf that day too. Shot a
Mhm.
91. To most people, if you don't know anything about golf, that's not gonna make a difference to you. But for me, it was a huge deal, and it happened on my birthday, so that was awesome. But yeah, so yeah, Lolo 21 was a blast. Sunday we did just all Lola related stuff, and she loved every little thing of it. We went on a hike with Boss. She laughed for an hour straight on the hike. She just loves being out in nature. Took a nap, and then we went to Build-A-Bear. I didn't think she was really going to be about it. She was all about it. She loved it. Just picking out all the different stuff, and she was just having a blast. It was super cool to see her love that. And then we went to Fritz's, which if none of you guys have ever been there, it's like a railroad themed little like fast food place that I used to go to as a little kid with my grandma out in KCK, and we took her to that. And they have a little train that goes around up top, and then another train that comes around that train brings your food and drops it down to you. So it's a really fun experience, and she loved the trains too. So that was super cool. into kind of my own, health and stuff the last month. The beginning of the month, maybe the end of, I might have even mentioned this on the last Zoom call because it's been about a month or so, but I hurt my knee on a hike with Lowland Boss actually, probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I just wanted to talk real briefly kind of about what my strategy is when something like that happens when you guys get hurt, because that shit does happen, whether we're lifting or just living life. First and foremost, when you're hurt and you can't work out like you're normally able to, I mean, for me, that's that's probably the one thing that ever really kind of depresses me is when I can't move my body how I want to. Now, with that said, I don't throw a pity party for myself and let all my other habits go. That's when I know that my other habits are more important than ever. My nutrition, my sleep. So I keep those things as structured at a higher degree, even when I am kind of dealing with an injury. Now, that injury didn't keep me from doing upper body, but it did keep me doing from legs. And I still actually, it's this week is gonna be my first legitimate leg workout. I've gotten in 2 or 3 home workouts, like quick, just body weight squats or dumbbell squats and stuff like that, but nothing super intense in the gym. My first step was obviously give myself rest. My second step after that knee surgery was to get in to see my chiropractor. I have a couple that I see for various reasons. The one out in Overland Park is Dr. Anderson at Barnaby Chiropractic. I've seen a ton of people to him, and then I have one up in the Northland, Dr. Strofe at Healing Well Chiropractic off 152. She's also equally as amazing as well. But so I saw those people. Dr. Anderson found out that actually, and so this is where like chiropractic care is really awesome, especially if you're good chiropractors. Most people think it's just the spine that they will adjust. He actually didn't. It had nothing to do with my spine. My fibula was actually out of place a little bit. I don't know to like what degree, but he was able to identify that. So he made the initial adjustment. Inflammation went down a ton. My pain was reduced probably by about 80% after just that one adjustment. And then he did it a couple more times because your body kind of pulls that stuff back out of place here or there. And now I've been about pain free for about 2.5 weeks in that right knee. So that's been awesome. So whenever you have something going on with your body, it's important that you stop and listen to it and respond how you need to. Do not just sit there and push through something because that's how it's going to turn into a much bigger issue. Um, but I think that's really it for the last month. So the first thing on the agenda, now that we have talked about that, is we have a winner to announce. My newer people on the call as well. We did it. We do monthly challenges, and this last challenge was you would get 5 points for hitting your water intake goals, which for females that was I believe 90 ounces is what we had that set at, and then for males it was 120 ounces that your goal was. And then in the app, you would have that habit if you were part of the challenge. And every time you cross off that habit, you would get 5 points. The other habit was to get in 10,000 steps a day. Some people get this in very easily just in what they do as a job, and other people have to be very intentional about to get up from their desk and actually go on those walks. But so I know that every single month that we've done a challenge, especially around these couple things, people have absolutely loved it and thrive with it. Um, and it just helps you really cultivate those habits. Now, obviously, we're going into some harder months for that stuff. October is going to be a good month, but especially if you live here in the Midwest, then, December, November and December are going to be tougher times to get that in, but it's still important. That's why I have my walking pad to try to get in those steps as well. But so we had actually 5 people tie for first place. But as we talked about on the last Zoom call, if you were on that Zoom call for that challenge, you got a bonus 20 points. So that actually crossed off 2 people that didn't make it to the last Zoom call. So we have 3 people to choose from with it. So I need to share my screen on this and type in these names here. So let me share screen. Can you guys, oh, no, you can't see it. All right. Share screen. Okay, can you guys see this little like wheel thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right, so we had Victoria, we had Jessica, and then we also had Elizabeth. All right, cool. All right, so this is going to spin at once. Whoever wins this right here, you're going to get $100 either credit towards your next program or your next month, or I will Venmo you personally after the call as well. So whoever wins, I'll shoot you a text and make that happen. So I'm going to click this real quick, and it's going to tell us who wins. Here we go. And then we'll get into the call there after this. All right. Our only Canadian in the group just won. Victoria, congratulations. I don't think she's on the call right now, but I will reach out to her after the call. Jessica, you're on the call. Sorry you didn't win, but hopefully, I know. I'm sorry. I can't control it for you, but I appreciate you being on the call and I appreciate your hard work on that. I think you've been in the running on some other ones as well. All right, I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to share to the other screen and we're going to get into our topic of the night. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my realistic goal setting screen? Looks like you can. All right, perfect. All right.
Not big.
There we
Okay,
go.
there you
Now,
go.
that's good. All right. Realistic goal setting. Next page. All right. So quick, just I don't want you to think too in depth about this, but what is your current goal? When I first say that, what does your mind initially go to in terms of what are we doing for health and fitness right now? And you can obviously apply this outside of health and fitness, but that's what we're going to talk about at the moment. So what does your mind kind of go to? As you're thinking about this, throw it in the chat if you can think of something. Otherwise, you're just going to hear Renae and I just share specifically our own goals. Renae, do you have any initial goals that you're thinking of as other people are thinking of something?
Why don't you go first?
I go first. All right, that's fine.
I don't
So
do well on the spot.
no, you're totally fine. Be thinking about it while I'm kind of thinking about mine as well. So where my mind personally goes right now is I am really honestly I'm in a maintenance phase. And while there's no specific really big goal that I'm working towards, my goal is just overall maintenance. It's kind of where I've been at the last year or so since Lola came along. My biggest goal is to maintain balance in my life, right? To maintain kicking ass with thriving lives, to maintain 3 to 4 workouts a week. Some days that's at the gym and that's a good hour plus long workout, and other days it's 20 minutes in the backyard, but still just making sure that that is prioritized and I'm fitting that into my days and into my week and being very intentional with it. My goal is always to maintain my sleep. My goal is always to maintain my nutrition, which comes back to meal prep and stuff like that. So for me, goal is maintain the status quo of what I'm currently doing on a health perspective and on a family perspective and just life balance perspective. And that is really ultimately, in my opinion, that's when you are kind of thriving. Is when you have all those pieces working and efficiently and are not stresses in your life like that as well. So not that stress is going to be easy to fully eliminate, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think that's my end goal for everybody is to get to a point where you can be healthy maintaining. Now, I will eventually have a more specific goal of, okay, I want to shred up for summer, or maybe I want to go into I want to start lifting a lot heavier. One thing I am trying to do now that my knee's feeling better is I want to prioritize being more active in terms of outside of the gym, but being able to run sprints and stuff of that nature, which I feel like I've lost some of that athletic ability after having left teaching PE the last couple of years. So that's kind of where I'm at. Renae, you had a couple seconds to think. You want to share? Should I dive?
I feel like I have a few goals. One of them is just always maintaining currently where I'm at. I did have a goal to include more like social life and more like fun into my life, which that is just not like fitness related. It's actually the opposite of fitness, but
That fits into your lifestyle though, like just like
I
a
yes.
life.
So like I said, I had a very isolated lifestyle for a long time. Um, and that was fine. I needed that mentally. However, I think I'm out of that now, which is cool.
Good,
So just yeah, more connection, things like that, which I've been doing since like July. And then my other goal is to kind of regulate my cycle and my hormones. And then I always generally like I always want to build muscle as well. So just a few like lifestyle ones, but the goal I just had was getting my morning workouts back. So I'm
good.
still in the phase of like I don't want to get up in the morning, but I go and do it.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's easy for me to go back to that because I already did it for like 2 years on end. So
yeah, yeah,
um,
definitely.
I guess that's another just a bunch of like little mini goals, but um
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Then
that's
eventually I'll do another cut as well. But like I said, right now I'm just learning how to navigate the social life with my fitness life, like with what I'm used to.
I think you're killing on all those levels. Um, okay, we got Amanda here saying less sugar. We got Stacy saying lose weight, and we got Dexter saying maintain and be more active outside of lifting. So kind of like what I was saying is more athletic side of things. I know he used to be a cross country runner, so probably getting into just doing things like that. Um, Eating intuitively and still being healthy. Courtney said working out 4 days a week. Move my body more, not just gym related, but yoga, get outside more, stuff of that nature. And then, yeah, I mean, really just kind of clean up alcohol and nutrition just to lower inflammation, which is kind of what she came to do in the very first place. So yeah, I think those are great goals. Let's kind of go on to the next page. Keep those in mind, but we'll get a little bit deeper into what those goals look like. So thanks for sharing that, guys. All right. So what is your why? What is your true purpose? And again, like I would love to sit here and go through everybody's answer to every single thing, but really just kind of keep in mind what these things are. I'll ask you specifically what, to kind of throw those down. But what is your why? I feel like I mean, I've probably been on thousands of phone calls with new clients or current clients or whatever over the years. And one of the most important things, or one of the most common things that I personally hear from people is doing it for their family, right? Whether they have children or maybe they're single and they don't have children right now and they don't even have a significant other, but they know that that's eventually what they want to do, and so they want to get ahead of things. Um, so planning ahead for that, I come back to think about my wife Nicole. She started going to therapy to work on just things, right? Just shit from her childhood and growing up and whatnot. And she wanted to do that because she wanted to be able to give to Lola a healthy minded mom, right? Somebody who was balanced and understood things. That way she could just become a better mom with her.
Before Lola even was in the picture, though, this
Yes.
wasn't like, oh, I'm
Yes.
pregnant now, let's go to therapy. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
this was Nicole's original plan when I mean, just in general,
Yeah.
she wanted to be the best self for herself
Yes.
before she ever wanted to become a mom.
One
So
hundred
this
percent.
plan took in a lot of, which
She
we'll
she
talk
was
about.
she
This
was in
goal took a
therapy
lot of
2 years,
effort.
2 years before we started trying. So yes, that's 100% right. Like it wasn't she got pregnant and was like, oh fuck, I got to go figure out my mental health. No, it was
Yeah.
I'm going to be intentional about this and do it well ahead of it. So because it's tough to kind of apply that stuff. So that was kind of it for her as well, and so that is really probably the most common purpose that I hear with it. And other people, it's just because they feel bad and they want to feel good, right? I mean, life is long, but life is also short, and I feel like it's too short to feel bad all the time. Some people would say, YOLO, right? Like eat the bad foods, do this, do that, and yes, within reason. But at the same time, what if you fuck around and live to 90 despite all your unhealthy choices? But the last 20 years of your life, it's in absolute pain. You're stuck, you're sedentary, you're on all these medications, and you just won't die, even though you're like, I lived in an awful lifestyle. And so for some people, that's kind of, what it is. One of my clients on here as well, he's not on the call right now, but Jose, he shared, and I feel like I've seen this before, so I don't know if he was actually saying his actual grandpa said this or if it was just a quote that he found, but it said something along the lines of, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have treated my body better or treated my health better. And that's what I see a lot. I saw my grandma go through the last decade of her life in pain every single day. Quality of life was terrible, but she had to live through that every single day. Whereas if she would have been a little bit more intentional prior to that and started drinking more water and drinking less pop and being more active, she would have had a better quality of life those last 10 years. And shit, she might have last a lot longer. And she'd be here to be a great grandma to Lola. And so I won't dive much deeper into this right here because everybody's why is your own personal thing. But that's at least my experience that I personally see as to be people's whys, right? Is they want to live a long, prosperous, healthy life. They want to feel better now is their main thing, and look better now and be more confident now. And so many doors open when you are feeling your best, right? When you're actually thriving within your health, so many more doors are open. And those doors might have always been open prior to that, but you never really saw them because you're clouded because you feel like shit, right? So think about what your why is. And anytime you're setting a goal, you can't just arbitrarily throw out a goal. It has to have meaning behind it. It has to actually be important to you. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You're going to get a week into it or a month into it, and it's going to be easy to give up because you don't have a true why that's really pulling you in that direction. Let's go to the
But
next.
your why is different than your goal, to make
Yeah.
that clear. Like
Yes.
a goal is a tangible thing you're working towards. Like
Yes.
my why is confidence and just like quality of life,
Mhm.
personal growth. But I can't have the goal like, oh, I just want to be confident. Like
Yes.
That's not my goal, that's my why. So just make sure you're understanding the difference between the two of those.
Your why is your overarching, umbrella, and then the goals and the actual steps and everything we're going to talk about in the rest of this call all fit in that as well.
Mhm.
All right, next slide here. So think long term and then work backwards. Now you're going to hear a couple different, thoughts from Renae and I on this as well. I'm somebody who I understand like numbers, right? And data and stuff like that. And so I like to think of health and at least explain health sometimes as an investment, just like you would financially invest, right? Because we're all going to eventually retire one day, or most likely, or hopefully we do, right? Hopefully you can enjoy all of that work that you put in for the last, 30, 40 years of your life. And so when you get to that retirement age, what do you want that quality of life to look like? So that's where I think I want to think long term and then work backwards. Maybe you don't need to think that far ahead, but hey, you got 50 pounds to lose, or maybe you got 100 pounds to lose. We're not going to lose that 100 pounds in the next 6 months. And if you do, you probably didn't do it in a sustainable way or whatever, and that weight could easily come back, or you did it in a way that has now hurt your health in other ways, right? So if you have a bigger overarching goal like that, understand that that's not going to happen in the next 6 months as a short-term goal. That's going to be more like, let's make it a 3 or 5 year goal, right? And then let's work back. Okay, where do I need to be at by this point and this point and this point, kind of moving into it. So next slide on this. So that's how I like to look at goals, is more further out, and maybe long term for our discussion for Thriving Lives purpose is maybe a year and a half away, right? Right now, summer just ended, and maybe you want to think for, I don't like how I looked and felt this summer. And not that we should be totally vain about it, but that is a reality, right? Nobody doesn't want to look good, and nobody doesn't want to not feel good. So next summer is 9 months away, give or take right now. So that's a longer term goal. I would say it's more intermediate term, but either way, that's a longer term goal in terms of kind of what it is we're talking about right now. So how do we get to that point? Right. So we want to look out and then kind of work back. That's kind of what I'm talking about here in this slide, is where do you want to be at in 30 years? Okay. Now, if I want to be here in 30 years, where do I need to be at in 20 years in order to be here in 30 years? Where I need to be at in the next 10 years to make sure I'm on track to be here at 20 and 30? Where do I need to be at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? And what do I need to do tomorrow so that I am taking active steps towards that 1 year mark, that 5 year mark, that 10 year mark, and so on and so forth. Um, it's that compound interest of kind of making those things happen. What do we got here? What if you
Um,
don't know your why yet, but you know this change needs to happen? That's a great question. If you don't know your why yet, Renae, did you have something you were thinking about?
yeah. So you'll find it throughout. Like as you're just going and you know these changes need to happen. When you start to see these results, when you start to feel these results, when you start to be more well-rounded as a person, you'll understand your why, because you'll be living it without, like, when I started my fitness journey, I was not thinking 1 year ahead. I was not thinking 30 years ahead. I was thinking, okay,
Right now?
I need to focus on my mental health because that's what's important right now. And I need to probably eat better and move my body. And then just with those little tiny short, and that's where Marcus and I are a little bit different on this topic of like the little short-term goals. I changed my entire trajectory of my life by doing those little tiny baby steps. So if you don't know what your why is, totally cool, but you will find it, and you will, like, it's just the process and the journey of that, if that makes sense. That's my take on it, at least.
No, I think that's a great take on it, and I also think it, Courtney. I'm happy you said that as well, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily know their why, and also understand that your why is going to evolve and it's going to change. Like when
100%.
I first started working out is because I felt undersized compared to my peers. I was 5'6" and 120, right? So my initial goal was, I don't like feeling smaller than other people, and I want to put on muscle, right? And that's no longer my goal. I feel happy and confident with where I am. Of course, I always like to be bigger, but at the same point, I'm happy and content with where I am right now. But now my why has changed, right? Once I started Thriving Lives, it became more of, I want to inspire other people. Now that's really what my goal is. I brought on Renae onto the team so we can continue to change more lives and inspire more people, and that's more of what it is. So I think if you don't know your why, at least know what are the positive things in the short term that are going to make you feel better, right? If you're dealing with
You
inflammation,
only do that, you only know that by doing it. Like,
exactly,
you're not going to know how you're going to feel if you don't try, and if you don't do it, and if you don't follow through with it.
exactly.
But once you start to have that, like, like Marcus and I talk about it a lot of like like I get an immediate reaction, like an immediate like punishment per se when I have wheat. Most people don't get that. And so when you get that immediate, like either punishment or over time, you can kind of see it, then it starts to kind of fall into place. Um, so even if your punishment isn't immediate, when you start to feel better, you'll realize, oh, 2 years ago I was not feeling like this, even though day to day life you may not notice you're entirely feeling better until it like stacks up.
Exactly. Exactly. Sounds like Courtney said that that made her feel better. So yeah, thank you for sharing that question. Hard to like food when you eat out since it's not measured. Um, Amanda, you said hard to log food when you eat out since it's not measured. What just trying to figure out where does that fit into this specifically. But yes, you are right. It is hard to log that food whenever you eat out. We'll let's or should we just answer that real quick, Renee?
Um,
It's a good question. Here,
it's a
I'll
great question. It's a little bit just a longer winded of an answer, but some places on MyFitnessPal you can like they're already entered, like Chipotle Bowl, you can enter it in, and it's the rough estimate.
Mhm.
Our main goal here is though that we're not eating out for every single meal. And that is your cheat meal, or you're picking things that can be easily measured, or again, it's a whole like it's an 80-20. Like you're not trying to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
We don't need to measure every single food ounce by ounce by ounce by ounce. So if you're off a little bit, we just want to be trending better. But now if your coach is telling you we need to be way more strict on our macros, then you need to pull back.
Yeah.
That's what I
And
would say.
I would say pull back as in, okay, let's eat out less. But yeah, if you have to eat out and it's not your what you're designated as your cheat meal that week, because obviously if it's cheat meal, enjoy yourself, eat whatever you want, whatever. But if it's outside of that cheat meal, if it's your second meal out that week or third meal out, then I would always say just try to find something on the menu that it's more similar to what I would have on your meal plan. I mean, really the easiest way to do that is think simple, right? Think protein, veggie, and try to eliminate the more unhealthy sides, mac and cheese. Like that would be something that I'm not gonna go get mac and cheese unless it's my cheat meal, and then I'm gonna have mac and cheese. But if it's not my cheat meal, then I'm gonna try to get a veggie on the side in place of that mac and cheese to try to make it a little bit cleaner. If rice is an option instead of the loaded baked potato, then I'm gonna get the rice, or I'm gonna get the baked potato without all the fixings, or maybe have that on the side so I can do so conservatively. But yeah, and in a perfect world, especially when we're just now getting started and whatnot, is we're moderating that as much as we can, or at least trying to find better alternatives. But yeah, if and something I also do as well is, let's say you're eating at just a hole in the wall burger place. Think of a restaurant, a chain restaurant that have a similar burger. So like Red Robin is something where, or Applebee's, right? So if I go to just a normal restaurant, that's like a local one that's not a chain, but I get a burger and it's similar to something that I would find at Applebee's, then I'm gonna go type in Applebee's in a burger, and then I'm gonna log that if I'm actually trying to log that. That way I'm finding something somewhat similar. Sounds weird, but if you ask for the nutritional facts, they have to give them to you. I don't track it as well as I should eating out, but I know that I can tell if it's in my range of plans. So like Courtney said, you can ask. I've never asked for that, but that's good to know that you can ask for it. Again, if I'm trying not to eat out, then I'm just not going to eat out, right? But that's good to know that you can also do that as well. Hopefully, I answered the question. All right, what happens if you reach your goal? So let's kind of look at this as positives, right? So let's real quick. My goal is, yeah, yeah, give it to me.
Some goals don't have an end though, to
Yes, that's true.
piggyback on this. So like my goal of like confidence or whatever of loving myself, I'm never going to reach that goal because there's no,
It's a journey that you're always on.
it's a journey. So when
Every
we're talking about 30-year goals, 20-year goals, 1-year goals, whatever, that's very different than if your goal is like to lose 10 pounds or whatever.
yeah.
So let's approach this as if your goal was a tangible goal, not
But I
your
would also say, I mean, so this is if you reach your goal. So your goal is to go to the gym and to start cultivating that as a habit, to eliminate the bad energy from your life, to eliminate alcohol from your life, those types of things. And that's going to pave the way for better state of mental health, for better confidence, for better knowledge in the gym. And what happens when you reach those goals is you now have a higher degree of self-efficacy around
Mhm.
your health and fitness journey. So now you have that. Okay, right? So maybe that's a big deal to you. Maybe it's not a big deal to you. I don't know what the next slide is. What happens if you don't? Yeah. So another thing as well is like again, if we are taking a longer term route and you're like figuring out, okay, my 30-year goal isn't something specific, maybe it's more vague, but it's like, hey, when I retired, I want to be able to travel and I want my knees to feel good and I don't want to be sedentary like I've seen my grandparents be, and I want to go out and do the shit that I want to do when I have the time and finances to do so and not be restricted to my home because that's the only place I feel comfortable because I'm in pain and don't feel good. So, in my opinion, so if I'm looking long term, that's not a specific thing, but it is a general way of life. Is that I can be active, I can go on hikes and stuff like that, and not be like, oh, I'm 60, so I can't do that, or I'm 70, so I can't do that, or whatever. I think that the more powerful thing is what happens if you don't reach that goal, right? And again, it doesn't have to be that specific, tangible. I lost 30 pounds or whatever. What happens if you don't reach your goal? What happens if you don't do the actions that lead to those things, right? So for Renae, she doesn't start going to therapy. If she doesn't start using the gym as her therapy, then she's stuck in the same spot she was then years ago, right? You're feeling
Mhm.
more depressed, more anxious. You don't have control over these things, and you feel stuck, and that is not fun, right? So at that point, where's your quality of life at if you don't start taking the actions to get there? And everybody's this is going to be different for every single person, right? If you're coming to
Mhm.
me with inflammation and gut health issues and you don't do shit about it, it's not just going to go away. That stuff doesn't just magically go away because time passes. You will
No.
either get worse or you will get better or you'll stay the same. Staying the same isn't usually a good thing, especially if you don't feel good, right? Getting worse sounds only just worse, right? So the only option to get out of that is to get out of it. And if you got to do work that's hard to get there, then do the work that's hard to get there, but get yourself out of that situation. And obviously, if you join Thriving Lives, you've taken at least one step, if not multiple steps, in kind of getting there. But so think about that in terms of your goals, right? And again, not every single goal do you have to go through this whole checklist of what is my why for this goal, what happens if I do or don't get there. But these are things to think about whenever you're goal setting in whatever that area of your life is, right? So this is not a playbook that you have to go step by step, ABC, or a recipe to get there. But these are things that you should be able to draw on and kind of be able to ask yourself this question along the way, right? And people that are losing motivation, maybe you've been doing this for 3 months, maybe you've been doing this for 6 months. Maybe your goal was to lose 50 pounds and you're 30 pounds into it and you're like, I'm kind of content, right? And you start taking that foot up off the gas. That's a good time to come back to these questions. Come back to what is your why. Maybe your why has changed, but you still need to come back to figure out what that why is. You need to come back to, okay, here's where I'm at on this trajectory or on this timeline of trying to get somewhere. What happens if I stop right now? What happens if I've been going to the gym 5 days a week and I'm gonna say, ah, screw it. I'm not gonna go this week for whatever reason. Maybe, and usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually life happens and you don't make it. And then because you didn't make it that week, you don't make it next week for some reason. And so now if you're not revisiting these checklists, these things that we're kind of talking about right now, it's a slippery slope, right? Momentum goes way faster in a negative direction than it goes in a positive direction. And so you're going to end up at your starting point or at a worse starting point a whole lot faster than the time it took you to get to the progress that you've actually been making. And that's just really how that stuff works. And so that's where you want to come back to what happens if I stop now, right? What happens if I give up the healthy changes that I've been making? What happens if I stop checking in and stop being accountable and reflective on this stuff?
You have to want those goals and those that why. You can't, like, how am I trying to say this? You have to want it still. If you don't want it, you're never going to get back to that goal. So you have to reevaluate and think like, okay, I'm not making it to the gym anymore. I'm not eating health anymore. Do I still want this or does it even matter? So you have to be in touch with yourself and your emotions and your goals to even like recognize if you still want that goal, because you can't want it just because other people want it for you as well.
That's very true. And I think in that moment too, what's important to recognize, and I think this is important to recognize in all areas of your life, day to day, right? Am I thinking about this topic in an emotional mind or in a logical mind, right? Emotional mind, I've had a shitty week. I don't care about what I eat right now because I've had a shitty week and I just want to feel better and have this comfort food. So emotionally, I'm investing in a negative choice, but in the moment, it's going to give me some joy, right? So in that moment, you say, I don't care that my goal was to lose 40 pounds. Fuck it. I've had a bad week, right? well, let's switch back to logical mind just for a moment. And that's hard to do, to switch from emotional mind to logical mind, right? But if you can get out of that state of emotion and think about this from a logical standpoint, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds. I'm 30 pounds into this. And again, not that the numbers on the scale, but just like that's just a quantifiable, easy example to throw out here. But I'm, 60% of the way right now. I had a really bad week. And I think that's probably the reason why I'm having these extra cravings and stuff of that nature. How would I feel if I just gave up, if I just threw in the towel? If I already feel shitty today, what happens if I make a bunch of choices that go against what my initial goal was? And in a week from now, am I going to be thankful that I ate like shit today because I was feeling emotional about it? Or am I going to be thankful that I pushed through this emotional moment and made positive choices or got back on track tomorrow, and next week I'm gonna be thankful that I made that choice. And so that's where we have to kind of get out of that immediate gratification, get out of that emotional mind, and think logically. And again, whatever your goal is, maybe shit has changed, right? And that's a good time to then reassess. I don't think that our goals around feeling good and being healthy ever really change. I think we just get fatigued with it, right? Of trying to make those choices on a consistent basis. We get frustrated if we're making those choices and we're not seeing the results as fast as we want to. Maybe that's on you for having too high of expectations or just not understanding the complexities that go into this, right? Hey, you're 55, you're menopausal, it's going to take a little more time than when you were 25 and fresh out of college. You know what I mean? So like understanding those kind of nuances with it all. But so one other question to think about this, and this especially comes back to the people who said, their why was their family. Who suffers if you quit? Right? If you're doing this because your health is not in good shape, you saw your family, your parents not have good health, and they left this world sooner than what you would have liked, and you have children yourself, who suffers? Who suffers if you're not taking care of yourself? If you're every day having gut issues and you feel like shit and you're having migraines that are due to your stress and stuff of that nature, can you really be your best mom and dad in that situation? If you feel like absolute shit, can you really show up to your job and do your absolute best in that situation? Can you really show up to those that love you in your life and be the best your version if you're suffering on the inside, right? And that could be mental health, that could be emotional health, right? That could be so many other things than just the physical health, but that's obviously kind of what we're talking about right now. So who suffers if you give up right now, right? And also who else succeeds with you if you're succeeding? Who benefits from that and who doesn't benefit from it? All right, how will you feel if you reach your goals at each checkpoint? That kind of goes back into kind of some of the things we just talked about. Simply put, when you set a goal and you execute that goal, short term, long term, whatever, you feel good about it. There's not a person in the world that doesn't feel good when they reach a goal that they had, right? So that one's a pretty easy answer. How will you feel? You're going to feel good, and you're going to also build. That's one more positive win in your book of wins that makes you feel good because you had control over that. You had so many days you could have given up. You had so many days you could have made other choices. You had so many times that you could have said, screw this, it isn't that really big of a deal to me. But you pushed through those because we all have those moments. But you were able to push through, or maybe you had weak moments, but you didn't let them snowball, right? The very next day you got back on track and you didn't let those negative, choices snowball into more and more and more of them. And so you're going to feel good about that stuff. It's just like, a simple, immediate version of that is Renae doesn't want to get up and go to the gym at 5 a.m. She wakes up, the alarm goes off. She's like, this is bullshit. I don't want to go to the gym right now. But every day that she stands up, gets dressed, takes her selfie in the mirror, gets to the gym, especially the day that she didn't want to, she feels way better that she forced through that weak version of Renae in her head that's like, don't go to the gym, hit snooze, sleep for another hour or whatever. And that's just a quick example of it.
The
But we
other
all
thing too is like it takes time to feel better though. Like when I like rewind 2 years ago when I first started the morning workouts, it took a probably solid 2 or 3 months of working out in the morning until I noticed the benefits of, oh, I have more energy during the day, or oh, it's a little bit easier to get up. But I didn't, you don't wake up and go to the gym in the morning and one time you're like, wow, this is great. I love this habit. Like you
yeah,
have to
that don't
keep
happen.
and so, but just to clarify, there are times when I do not want to get out of bed and I do not want to go to the gym and my workout is not as good as it could have been. But I show up and I do it because that's what I do.
Definitely.
Uh,
Well, and it comes back to also, like I just said, and I say this a lot. Um, Negative momentum builds so fast. Again, think about momentum as a positive momentum as like a big ass boulder that you're pushing up a mountain, right? Every step and every push takes so much energy and effort and intentionality to make that boulder go up that hill, right? Now, if you step out of the way of it, does it take much effort for that boulder to roll back down to the bottom of the hill? Definitely not, right? It happens very, very fast. And before you know it, you're like, holy shit, I've been pushing for months. I stepped out of the way for 2 weeks, and look at this reversal of everything I just worked so hard to. And now it's defeating, and you're like, I really have to start over. It took so much energy to get that thing going. Now you still need to get back down there and keep pushing it back up. But that's where this kind of comes back to is that negative momentum. Once you give yourself the out and the excuse and say it's okay to take the easy way out at this moment, especially if you're early on in your journey, you're just saying that's okay, and it's going to be easier every single time that you want to cave. It's easier to say yes to that caving, or to say yes to that avoidance of whatever habit is that you know that you need to be investing in. It becomes easier and easier to do that, whereas discipline is the complete opposite, right? Discipline is that taking that next step up the mountain, right? It's
And
maybe
it's you're building discipline on the days you don't want to go. The days I get up at 5 8 or 4 a.m. and I'm ready to go for the gym, I'm not really building discipline. Like I'm doing it, but it's not like a self-efficacy built discipline
yes.
step. The days I wake up and I do not want to go, but I force myself to go,
Mhm.
that's where I'm building that discipline. And that's what carries out into other parts of my life.
Yeah,
Um,
that's well
or
said.
whether it's you saying no to sweets or whatever your goal is.
You
Doing it when
came
it's
home and
hard
ate
is gonna
your
happen.
you came home and ate your prep meal instead of stopping at Chipotle after a long day, which is what old you would have done. And it's what all of us want to do sometimes is I don't want to go home and eat what I had yesterday or eat whatever is on my plan or whatever the case is. And I have those moments too, right? And sometimes we give into those things. We give into those, and it's okay if it's time to time, right? As long as they're few and far between. But if you're noticing, well, I did that 3 times this week, well, you're not on a great trend. Now, if last week you and a month ago you was to do that 7 days a week and now you're down to 3, well, then you are making progress. But obviously we want to keep moving that right direction. All right, next here. So who can you include in your journey? This actually kind of ties us back into what our challenge is going to be for this upcoming month, which we'll talk about. We forgot to talk about at the beginning of the call. We need to make sure we do that at the end of the call. So if you're looking forward to the next month's challenge, I've already kind of posted a little bit about it. We're going to give you some more details today, and then I'll be posting about those tomorrow in the community
I
group.
think we could tie it in right now though too.
All right, well, that works. So who can you include in your journey? So these are people that are going to just be supportive along the way for you and that are going to help you continue to make that investment. They might even be making that investment with you as well. So like real quick, I just listed out your spouse, whoever you're living with, um, your significant other, whatever. Ideally, in a perfect world, they are on the same team with you, right? If they're not actively making the same changes you are, they're at least supportive. You've at least communicated why this shit is important to you and why you are taking this next step in your health journey, and ideally, they join you with it, but they don't necessarily have to. They just need to at least be supportive of you, right? Family, friends, obviously coaches. Renae and I are here for that. Accountability groups, whether that's externally or that's within Thriving Lives, right? We have smaller accountability groups. We have the community group. We have the recipe group. We have all these different kind of sources like that. We have these Zoom calls. Added accountability. I think another good one is no thanks, Stacy. Thanks for showing up. I'll also record this and post it on the Zoom call as well. Stacey just said in the comments she had to go. So you'll be able to see the playback of the end of this, whatever you miss. But coworkers are a good thing as well, right? You spend as much time with your coworker sometimes as you do your spouse. And so including those in your journey. If you're a teacher, I had a lot of teachers do this, and I still do, that are within Thriving Lines as well. Is, hey, if you're struggling with your water intake as a teacher and you teach fifth graders, make that like a fun class challenge, right? To drink more water, or every time you say a certain word, everybody says drink water, right? Think back to like the shit that you would do in like college drinking days. What are some of those games you can kind of tie into some of your, gamify what it is you're doing with those around you, I think is always, always, always beneficial. The more people that are in your army, will only help, further it. And if you don't communicate what you're doing and why you're doing it, then they might try to take you away from it and into a different direction. And so that's why I think communication is really important. Renae, before we actually talk about this next challenge, I think this is a good time to talk about as well. Anything you want to add to that specifically?
Mm, no, I mean, you don't have to have anyone else in your journey. Well, I don't know. Like, if you don't have anyone else, that's okay too.
Yes.
But I guarantee you'll find people along the way that you include in your journey as well. Like,
And
once you start that, you
mhm.
get more people that are more like-minded, and that
Yeah.
helps push you forward too. So if you don't have anyone to start, that doesn't mean you can't start. But it will rub off on other people as well. Like, I have one client that she is the only person really in her family doing it, but her family will see her doing that, and that rubs off on them. And so over time, they may be more supportive of you or things like that.
And if
So
you do feel really alone in your journey, you have Renae and I here, and you have the rest of the community here. Everybody does care. You might have a different, trajectory, a different starting point or a different specific goal than everybody else has, but you're on a very similar journey as literally everybody else here. And a lot of your reasons why are also very similar as well. But so let's kind of pause what this topic is real quick, just to kind of talk about this next month's challenge, since I just brought that up as well. So this next month challenge. So in the past we've done, recipe challenges where certain people are going to thrive with recipes, and people like me, I don't care about recipes. I'm just going to eat basic ingredients, and that's what I'm going to be having, right? Other times it's been like the water and steps challenge and workout challenges and stuff like that. So this next one is going to be for our social media people, not just social media. You don't have to have social media to be able to partake in some of this as well. But so the next one is, we're going to call it the social media challenge month, right? So this is going to extend from next Monday, so October 7th, into Sunday, the 3rd of November. So it's going to go for 4 weeks, just like all of our other challenges. So Monday at midnight to Sunday at 11:59 p.m. on that 3rd. Now, how this works is you're going to get certain points, right? So in your, actually, since it's not a habit thing, what this is going to look like is, first and foremost, we're going to create a challenge group, another accountability group. And if you're a part of the challenge, you will be added into this group as well. And this is where it's important that you post in here every time you complete one of the things I'm about to say. So if you
we
leave,
will turn the notifications off so you don't get
yes,
5,000
yes,
messages. So
yes,
you don't need to say everyone,
yes,
like when you post, just take that off. But again, we can turn notifications off.
yes,
But
yes, yes. So
that's just how
nobody
Mark
is
and I will keep track of it, and it'll also encourage you guys as well
yeah,
to see
exactly.
the like leaderboard almost.
Yes. So first off, reviews. You can leave us a review on Google and Facebook. Both you can do on both, and you're going to get points for that as well. So it's 50 points each for a Google review and for a Facebook review as well. So there's 100 points right there off the bat. And hey, you can copy and paste whichever one you do. So if you do Google review, copy and paste it, and do the same thing on the Facebook review. So right there, easy 100 points for that one. Feed posts. So if you are posting on Facebook or on Instagram, I mean, shit, even on LinkedIn, right? You can post on those things as well. If you post anything about your journey, right? Whether it is a workout, a progress picture, if that's what you want to do, your meal prep for the week. Your sleep score, if you wear like a Whoop band or an Oura ring or something of that nature. Like, these are some things that are ideas, and it goes a lot further than that. Those are some examples that you could post like on your feed and or on your stories as well. You can obviously post a lot more to your stories than you can your feed and stuff of that nature. So I know we have some people in Thriving Lives that are gonna be like, social media ain't for me. This challenge isn't for me. And that's totally fine, right? That's why we have a variety of different challenges that we do. But some of you in here, I know, thrive on social media. So boom, this is an easy thing for you guys to partake in as well. So for a feed post on any of those things, 10 points. And then for story posts, and you could do multiple a day, right? You could post your meal prep for the day that you're eating this meal. You could post your workout from the day, and you can post your sleep score on your story, whatever that looks
You
like.
do like supplements, workouts,
How you feel that.
journaling, mindfulness. I'm doing my check-in today. Like, literally whatever, anything you want that comes to your mind about that entails Thriving Life Fitness. You could make that either a typed feed post or
Doesn't have to be a picture. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't have to be a picture. Courtney, I'm laughing at your message there. I love it.
What
So
she
yeah,
said.
and then to read words. You have to tag Marcus and I in it, or Marcus or I,
Yes.
uh, in the post, in anything. Yeah.
Yeah. anything that you do with that type of stuff. And then in order for us to know it, because chances are there's going to be a lot of people that are absolutely crushing it on this challenge, and it's going to be harder for us to keep track of. So that's why we're going to create that community group, accountability group there on the app as well. For this specific challenge. So every time you go and complete one of those things, or at the end of the day, or however it is you want to do it, go in there and say, I left a Google review, or I left a Facebook review, or I made a feed post, or I made a story post, or whatever, right? And so then at the end of the month, we'll go through there and tally up each person's score and essentially what they got done. Similar
That's
to
the only way we're going to know what you posted. So that's important that you add it in there. Jessica, no, there's not a max points per day.
yes.
Jessica said, is there a max points per day? So
That,
Jessica, for an example, Jessica posted a couple weeks ago a reel of her working out, and she just tagged me in it. So that would have counted towards this. So reel of working out, reel of your meal prep, whatever you want to do, picture, selfie, progress picture.
and
You
and
can look at
and
Marcus and I's Instagram too for some ideas.
yeah, because we post a lot on there as well. Another thought as well, and this is kind of goes hand in hand with like the review type of thing, but you could even just post again, it doesn't have to be pictures, but like I'm thinking like Facebook post of, hey, been in this journey with driving lines for a couple months, and this is what I've felt different. This is the changes that I've seen, or whatever the case is. Any of that stuff would definitely work for it. But
Now, just in case someone asks this, if my post is on Instagram and I'm sharing it to Facebook, Marcus, what do we want to do for that? But if it's this, it's the same post.
yeah, the same post, and it just shares on both. Um, I mean, I said we well, I would say that's two posts because two separate
Okay.
people are seeing it now. Some the incentives. Why does this challenge really matter to you guys? Because right now it probably seems like it's just benefiting Renae and I. So here's how this is incentivized to you. First and foremost, we'll do the same giveaway at the end of this. Whoever wins, whoever has the most points, $100 Venmo straight to you or applied to your account or however it is you want to handle that. Now, additionally, a couple other things are going to be incentives for this. Let's start with money side of things. As you guys know, we give out referral bonuses for anybody you refer to us that actually signs up. That counts as a referral bonus, right? So if you make a post and you have Sally reaches out to you and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Tell me more about this Thriving Lives." If Sally ends up reaching out and signs up, thanks to you, you get $100 referral bonus based off of that as well. So
My
obviously,
clients are $50
yes.
with
So
price
the
differences, but yeah.
yes, because we have price differences. But so, but either way, you get the referral bonus with that. And so that compounds pretty quickly, right? The more and more often you're posting, the more and more opportunity you have for actual financial gain. And not just a financial gain, because some people don't care about that. I know Courtney referred a couple people over and she was like, don't send me anything. I just want to help other people, which Courtney, you're the best for that. That's awesome. But that is kind of a factor of that, right? Is you're inspiring other people. And so you might not care too much about that, but I want you to think about most likely when you guys reached out to Thriving Lives, nobody really found me or found Renae organically. Is just like just a random thing on Instagram, right? You found us through somebody who has probably worked with us at some point, whether you actually know them personally or you just know them, they're a friend of a friend and just an acquaintance or whatever. It's probably how you found us, right? Somebody has had a good experience and that inspired you then to reach out or at least gave you knowledge that there are people out here that can help you with whatever it is that you're struggling with, right? So one person made a choice and you benefited from seeing that, from hearing about it, and now you are making those same lifestyle changes. So that is going to then inspire other people to do the same thing.
The way I kind of explained it to Marcus too was when I first started getting up at 5 a.m. 2 years ago for my workouts. This one guy, I saw his Instagram stories every morning that he was at the gym at 5 a.m. And just me like seeing, and I mean, I know the guy, but it's not like we were friends or anything. So just me seeing his posts was encouraging me to get up and go to the gym. And it's not like we were talking about it. So even people that you're not, like if people aren't saying, wow, I love this for you, they're still seeing your dedication and seeing your progress and how you're changing and they're benefiting and they're getting inspired from that. So even if they're not saying it, people see it more than you think. Yeah.
Real quick, I actually I think we should do just a cap on it because in terms of post and feed, like feed posts and story posts and stuff of that nature, I would say do 2 of those a day because I mean if you post as much as I do on your story, that could be 30 posts in a day. If we tag that, you know what I mean? If I tag Thriving Lives in a 30 different posts, then that's going to make it. I mean, other people they don't even want to be on social media at all, right? And so it might be a hardship just to even get on there. So I'm going to say, sorry, Jessica. I know that you were trying to win. So let's do a max of 2 feed posts a day, just because you got the crossover of Facebook and Instagram if you're going to do that, and then we can say a max of what do you say, 2 or 4 on story, Renae? How many story posts?
Hmm.
You can obviously post this 30 times in it, but we're only going to count a certain amount of them.
I would say 4 total. So if Courtney wants to post 4 things to her story, that's fine. But if Courtney wants to post 2 things to her feed and 2 things to her story, then that's, but Marcus said that feed posts, he said, were more points than
Yeah,
stories.
yeah.
But I would say, yeah, but okay.
We're thinking way too hard into this. I want to get back to the topic. Courtney, you just mess this all up. All right, I'm just gonna say
We will give you the final answer tomorrow when we put it in the group chat on how the points will work.
good answer. Good answer. Good question, though, Courtney. But yeah, and then some other incentives, obviously, with it besides just financial, and that's always fun. Inspiring others, added accountability. I think this is one that helps a lot. I know, like my bodybuilding preps for my competitions, I'll post about it every single week because it's an added incentive outside of just my own one. Is that once I've made this promise to the world, not that anybody gives a shit, but if I am going to be posting weekly on social media, like about my own journey with it, that's one added layer of accountability. That's one added layer of there might be people out there watching it that are going to judge me if I don't do this. Now, it's not why we have to do this. No, definitely not. That doesn't have to be anybody's reason. But for me, that was an incentive, right? And so that could definitely be an incentive as well for some of you guys as well. Some of you will take it as that. I know Renae kind of did the same thing as well. For that same thing. Okay, just to respect you guys' time, that's pretty much the challenge. We will give out added details and stuff like that tomorrow and kind of finalize all the different pieces of it. Let's finish kind of what tonight's call is all about, though. So, who can you include in your journey? We just gave you a lot of examples with it. Include, the more the merrier when it comes to that. So the things to think about in terms of what your goals are, once you're clear on your goals, whether it's long-term, short-term, intermediate, maybe you're doing the 30, 20, 10-year type thing and working all the way down, or maybe you're just thinking, where do I want to be at next summer? And what do I need to be doing in order to get there, right? So this comes into what are the daily actions that are aligned with where you want to be at to reach these goals, right? So let's think more short-term, right? What do we need to do for if we need to lose our goals to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 or 3 months? What are the things I need to do on a consistent basis? And what are the things I need to avoid on a weekly basis? If I'm used to drinking 3 times a week and eating out 3 times a week, those are things I need to pull back on. So those are some daily habits that I need to avoid, right, doing. And then what are the habits that I need to start doing? I need to start exercising more. I'm currently working out 0 times. I need to work out at least 3 times this week. I'm currently getting
But
5,000 steps a day. What are the other daily actions I can do? 10,000 steps a day.
this is where I added in that little thing on the bottom. It says start little and build up. If your goal is to do 10,000 steps a day and you're currently doing 2,000 steps a day, do not go from 2,000 steps to 10,000 steps. You're going to burn out. If your goal is to work out 5 days a week in the morning or 5 days a week, whatever time you want to do not go from 0 to 5. You want to start out by doing it slowly and sustainably to keep with these goals in 30 years. Because yeah, anyone can go from 0 to 100 really quick and then you're going to burn out. So start little, build up. Once you've got that in the bag, once you're doing 2 workouts a week and that feels good and you've consistently done that for weeks or 2 weeks on end or whatever, add in a third one. But don't go from 0 to 100 if you want your goals to last, in my opinion, which I've seen with clients as well. If you don't have any like discipline in place, is my take on it. Marcus may be different, but
No. I completely agree with that as well. Um, if you, yeah, I think baby steps go a long way with it. But we also have also talked about the flip side of that too, is that sometimes you do got to do a 180 on certain things, like depending on where you're currently coming from and how bad your health currently is maybe you don't have the luxury of just taking baby steps at this because you're not really going to see the results of that either. So I think there are so many nuances in this, but yeah, I completely agree though. If you, and this comes back to setting realistic goals.
Mhm.
You're not going to all of a sudden become a marathon runner and go run the New York Marathon next month if you're currently not running at all right now, right? So that's not a realistic goal. So what are the things that we can maybe we can set that marathon goal for a year out from now if you're currently sedentary and really start building it up. And that might even be too much depending on where else you're at with it. So this comes back to being really realistic about what it is you can do. Don't say you're going to work out 5 times a week if right now you're working out at zero and your job takes you all over the country every single week, and maybe realistically it's more realistic to only get in 1 or 2 of those, right? Losing 10 pounds in a month should not be your goal, right? Because I'm not going to try to take it that fast. It might happen incidentally if you're just now starting off and you're highly inflamed or something like that, but we have to kind of set these realistic goals with this and build them out so we're kind of hitting these checkpoints and making sure we're just on the right track. That kind of the same thing I was just now saying, what are the daily and weekly actions you need to avoid? Again, if you are habitually drinking a lot of alcohol, that needs to be something that you are trying to avoid, right? And if that means you need to avoid the certain social settings that are unhealthy for you, that maybe you don't have enough control. Maybe you don't have the discipline right now to be in a bar setting or at a restaurant setting and not get the alcohol or not get the more, foods that are not working with whatever you're trying to do. So maybe you need to avoid certain settings, and maybe it's just people. Maybe you have toxic people in your life that you have the choice to start moving away from, and that's a hard choice to do. But that's the same thing as cutting out, and sometimes even more important than even the food side of things, right? There are toxic people in your life that are constantly bringing people down, and that's when you got to know, I got to cut my losses at some point with this person or whatever. Or maybe it's a coworker that you can't cut out of your life, but you can stop investing into, right? And so think about where you're spending your energy, and is that energy being returned to you in a positive way? And that's a good way to kind of recognize this exact thing. What do I need to be avoiding? Right. Again, tons of nuances in it. But hopefully, if you're thinking about your whys and your overarching goals, then you can kind of get to that point as well. And just a little kind of leaving, thought here is, remember, there's this is never about being perfect. You're going to have bad days, off weeks, vacations, holidays, times of low motivation and low execution. That's going to happen to all of us. It happens to Renae and I. It happens to your most, inspirational Instagram influencer in the world. They're not out here being perfect every day either. Um, and even then they're getting paid specifically to look this certain way or do this certain thing. They're not factoring in all that type of stuff. So what matters is what you do consistently, and not what you do sometimes. And so again, you had a bad day. Let's zoom out. Did you have a bad week, or was it just a bad day? No, it was just a bad day. Okay, then you're being more consistent. Um, and if you are recognizing that your consistent habits and your consistent days are not aligned with where you want to be, this is the reason why we have check-ins. This is the reason why we need to be reflective and be asking these questions to ourselves on a fairly regular basis, especially in times when our execution and motivation gets low, because that will definitely happen. That's my last slide. Renae, you got anything to say about that or anything else? Everybody else kind of be thinking if you have any follow-up questions or anything you need us to address before we hop off the call tonight. All right, rock and roll. Well, this has been one of our longer Zoom calls, about an hour and 15 minutes. Appreciate you guys sticking through it with us. Hopefully, you got something out of this. Hopefully, something clicked for you. If just one thing clicked for you, then I think it was definitely worth your time. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. It's hard to find a better time to do it. It's maybe not the best time, but whatever the case is, I appreciate you guys being on here, carving out this time in your evenings. So hopefully you keep thinking on this over the next, few days or weeks, within your check-ins. If something resonated with you, definitely let us know, right? Because we want to know that feedback that knows where, our topics are kind of hitting home. And I would love to hear about what your goals are, if you have more clarity now or whatever the case is, as I know Renae would like as well. So I appreciate your guys' time as always. Um, and yeah, Renae's got check-in days tomorrow. Everybody else, you have what you got rocking. And yeah, have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye. Have a good night.